Hi guys, Liam from Warhammer Online here, and today's tutorial is going to be about the Seraphon Deep Jungle bases. It's basically for a quick base scheme for your new Seraphon army with not a lot of materials, just contrast really. So, this is the final product of our tutorial, and it's basically finished off. What I'm going to now show you is all the materials you need to replicate this base. We have Vallejo ground texture snow, so the Neve snow, and it's not really the colour that we need for this, it's the actual texture. So we can build up mounds for puddles and all that lovely little grit in the swamp. So that's the main base of it, and then we're going to put this on Croak's base that we're going to redo today for you. So for paints, it's predominantly contrast colours and the contrast range that GW's lovely thrown out specifically for everybody getting their stuff done. So we've got Plague Bearer Flesh, Warp Lightning Green, Dark Angels Green, Contrast Wildwood, and then for the stone we've got Agros Dunes with a Wraithbone and an Ardcoat for puddles. So the basic premise of us redoing all these new quick bases is that we've got to rebase all of our models from Age of Sigmar 1 Seraphon, where we were just advised to put them on bases that fit. So now we're putting them on the legal bases that's required. So I'm putting Croak on his new base to match all the other dinosaurs we're doing onto this little base here, and we're going to show you to get to this standard here ready for painting. So, how we did our bases is we used our Azurite ruins that we've cut up from the AOS terrain kit, chop them all up, make it all fancy on the bases, and what we're going to do now is define where the pools of water are going to be on the base. So with all of our bases so far, we've had it all going towards this little centrepiece of terrain on the base. So what I'm going to do now is sketch out a little outline of where I want my puddle to be. So I'll just make it all nice. Doesn't need to be precise, doesn't need to have angles, just needs to be chaotic really. Just have it go into the base, like so. We're going to start building up the pools with this texture paint here with the snow, and the good thing about this is it keeps its height for those little pools and stuff, unlike everything else that dries and it loses a bit of height. So what you want to do is get a big old clump of it on there and just try and apply that texture, but leave a little lip for the water or the pond or the puddle to go, and just try and work it way there, so it's easier for those water effects later on down the line to just fall in there. So texture's on now, and you can see there's a nice little lip for that little pond or puddle for Lord Croak. So I'm showing you the bigger base now because we were working on this for the rest of our tutorial. As you can see, there's bigger areas and bigger puddles that you can do, and it's a better example of what we can do with these bases. It's sprayed Wraithbone, so it's ready for those contrasts. So this is pre-water effects, and this is what we're going to work to in this little segment of the video. So we're going to be applying the contrast next. You'll notice that all the paints that we've used so far, or going to, are all in these hefty little dropper bottles, really cheap, really useful. It's good for applying paints and all that lot. But the best part about it is, with contrast, when you're doing massive bases like this, you just dab it on where you need it, and just anywhere, which is great. So first I'm going to dot all the Plague Bearer Flesh around on the base. So it could be anywhere here, you just want to make as many different patches as possible to make it all varied and contrasting colours, because it is a jungle base. So I'll just do these 5 main parts here. You can be chaotic here, you can do it anywhere. So next up we're going to put the darker colour on, which is the main colour, the Warp Lightning contrast paint. So the idea about this is to kind of like wet blend all the colours together. So just put a little bit on there, a little bit there, and just go on there, just slightly gently feathering into each other and blending it. So there's a good start. Let's begin mixing all then. Just go like that. Try and change some colours about. I normally spread the lighter colour first, so it's easier to get that spread rather than mixing the black, or not the black, the Warp Lightning Green into it and just contaminating it more. So let's just work that all the way out. So you can either wash your brush at this point, making it a clean transition, or you can just do me, and then just mix it straight up. But each to their own. So just mix it up there, spread it all out. This is the sort of idea you want to feather it in, blend it together. Just do this all over the base. So we're just finishing off these two tones here, and then what we're going to do next is get a couple dark colours on the base, a little bit of brown and a little bit dark green to signify a damp area of grass, or jungle underturf as I like to call it. So I'm using contrast Dark Angel's Green for this next part to make darker variances on the base and to make it marshy. So we're going to be putting hard coat after this to make it all water effects like, and we will be using this for the puddles, but we'll come back to that later. So we're only going to be using little bits of this, so we're going to use our little palette over here. Just not a lot, just about 4 drops, that's probably all you need. Just want to apply it in areas that you think might be a little bit moist, like towards the water, and then just random areas as well. Don't need to be consistent with this in each area, just go randomly if you so choose. It's nature after all. Same principle with the brown here, just dotting it all over and getting that undergrowth for a forest. So same principle, just probably less this time, so 2 drops, and just want to blend it into that jungle. You can put it anywhere, going over the light bits, so it's like shadows from the trees or something. Just, oh, that's a little bit of green, let's wash that there. Good thing about jungle is it's all wet blending, essentially, so you can mix it in there and it'll just look all nice. So back with the Warp Lightning Green, my favourite part is doing all these puddles. You'll notice we've got these clear bits ready for it. But these 2 notches here that have been got out are actually for the feet. But we're going to do them the same process because we don't want any of that bright colour shining through the model at the end of the stage. So let's get straight in. Just 2 dollops in this one, we'll make that all spread out. There we go. We need a lot of this, but not a lot, if that makes sense. Just enough that you can mix in a darker colour later on. Just like so, probably 1 more dollop there. There we go, perfect. So that's the sort of consistency you want. Here you don't really need too much. Just do that. Perfect. You can even use that little bit there. And over here, to be fair. There we go. And then for the bigger bit, probably use 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just blend that all in, make it nice and puddly. Do it right up to that terrain piece there. A little bit of a ruin. So back to Dark Angel's Green. The process of this is to have this darker colour go into the deeper parts of the pools to signify how deep the pool is, and it generally makes it look a lot better. So this process, I am going to be using a little bit more, so I will be using the dropper bottle, but not too many drops, like so. Probably 1, maybe 2 in here. Just make it a little bit deeper. This one can be a shallow pool, but obviously the deeper the pool, the more you'll use. So over here I'll probably use 3 little drops, but then I'm going to do that dark colour straight to the ruins, as if it's actually came up from the ruins, like it's a little old fountain, for example. So just like so, and then just a little bit extra there, just do it over here, just like so. So you're not wasting too much of that colour. And just try and blend it together. Probably do one more little dollop over here. There we go. Spread that out a bit. The good thing about it all being wet and using all of it, it will end up blending itself, so you don't need to put so much work into it. So I'm not happy with how this blending came out, so I'm just going to go back whilst this is wet and try and rectify it. Just one little big dollop there. Try and mix that around the edges so it's the brighter green, and then like so. Get it all mixed in there. Just like so. And we'll do the same over here. It's too straight of a divide from the actual lighter to the darker. We just want it to blend a lot more. So now we're going to be working on this little ruin. As you notice, the base is still drying, but this part is not a part of the base. Well, it is part of the base, but we'll sort that. So we're going to put a little bit into this little palette here, just to control it, because we don't want it going all over the base and changing the colour of the actual base. So like so, I'm going to be holding it from the base and working all this Agueros dunes into the recesses and to get that yellowy sort of stone. Ancient temple look. So the bit's been taken over by a terraforming Seraphon spaceship, for instance. So Agueros is done. You'll notice some areas are green where it's mixed in with the warp lightning, but that's great because it shows you where all the moss and all these ruins have been decimated by time and nature, and it's all growing up the walls, for example. So that's not too bad. It just gives a nice blending transition from jungle to ruin. So next step is dry brushing the ruins. So I'm going to be using Wraithbone base here, so that gives a good medium for making the actual ruins look quite nice and dry brushed without going over the top. So let's just get a little bit of that on our little palette over here. Not too much, it's just going to be a dry brush, and we're going to be using our trusty Series D to dry brush this all on. So nicely donated from our mate Luke and the guys over at Series D. Let's try and work it like that. Get as much of that off the actual brush bristles as possible, and then let's just get started. Let's get stuck in. So lightly go like that, go against the edges. Everyone knows how to dry brush at this point, but if you're just tuning in, just go against the edge and try and bring out as much detail and highlight that area as possible. Like so. And with that, the dry brush is done. The next step is going to be doing the water effects and all the tufts on the actual base. We're going to be using Gamer's Grass tufts here. So we've got reeds for the puddles, flowers to be dotted all over, and normal tufts to just dot all over. We'll be using clear PVA here that you can get at any old hobbycraft store. Normal PVA will suffice for this process. So just get a little dollop there. Just go anywhere really. Make it all nice. Get it right in there, like so. We'll go with the longer reeds here in the water now. Ooh. So we've finished all the tufts now. They're all on the base, and all the reeds are in the little pond. And you can see all the flowers dotted around. Next step, water effects. So with the water effects then, we're going to be using some hard coat. Now you can do the whole process of the water effects with the hard coat, but to speed things up, we're going to be using some UV resin and a UV light to get that instant process up, ready for this. So we're going to be using the UV resin here, and we're going to start doing the puddles. So just a couple blobs. You're going to be working this with a cocktail stick anyway. So a couple blobs, just like so. I'm going to be working this. So we want to be pushing all of these UV resin towards the edge of the actual puddle, just like so. Just make it go right to that edge. Make it all nice. Push a little bit up to that little reeds there. So with that puddle done, we're going to be using the UV light to set it. It normally takes about 10 to 15 seconds for this to set, so we'll go on to the next puddle. So just get that in there, all nice like. Have a little rave whilst you're at it. This good thing about UV resin is it sets nice and quick, so if you want to do lots of water effects, you can do in one day without waiting for it. So we finished drying that puddle off, but make sure not to touch this because it's still a bit tacky and you will leave a fingerprint on it. But it's at a stage where we can go on to the other puddles now. So let's get started. So the puddle's done, and we're going to be doing these next final stages. Just a heads up with the UV resin, be careful not to get it on your hands. It is bad for your hands, so it is advised that you use gloves, but because we're using a dropper bottle, it's very controllable and easy to spread. So next step then is for me to make some vines. So we're going to be using this green ostrich feather. You can get any feathers from any hobbycraft store, but what we're going to be doing for this is ripping little notches of it off, putting it on the palette ready. Again, 3 or 4 of them to replicate vines. So we are going to be using UV resin to stick this down. You can use any water effect, it's just to replicate vine and then stick it down to the actual base. So you don't need a lot of this, you just need just enough to stick it to the actual ruined bit here. So we're going to use that, about that will do. I'm going to be using a cocktail stick to mix it all. Just get it all in there, get it all over the feather bits. Make it all nice. There we go. There we go. Put that over this base. Just do here, for example. Get that over like that. Like so. Nice and easy. And set it, we'll use the light. I'm going to be adding a few more vines to this. So now apply a little bit more UV resin, just like so. To mix it all in. You can go absolutely crazy if you'd like. Mix it all in there. Get it all in there. As you remember from before, we're going to be using some hard coat on the darker green areas from earlier. So this is going to represent a marshy ground, wet but not quite a puddle just yet. So just a little dollop on your palette. We're just going to put this all over the darker areas. So here, for example, just getting over there. So we're going to be using Abaddon Black to edge the base for the final part of this tutorial. Any black will do, or any colour that you feel is necessary for doing the base. So let's get started. You can water this down, but I'm just going to do it straight from the pot. Just like so. So we finished the base now, just for the next step and getting the model onto the base. So this is the finished product with the model on the base. So as you can see in the tutorial, we had the model separate to the base, and to glue it to the base we just use super glue and a little bit of UV resin over the puddle so it fits in nice and green. And as you notice, he's got a little goatee, ready for all those battles. So these are the finished products of the actual tutorial. I hope that was everything to your liking, guys, and don't forget to like and subscribe on Wargamer Online. Cheers folks, bye.